Newt Gingrich really launched a broadside against you today in New Hampshire. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm going to play it. A lot of our viewers probably did not. Here's what he said about you and your supporters.
They're young enthusiasts, and at some point, people will figure out this is actually the legalized drug group. And once that becomes clear enough, I think you'll see Ron Paul's support shrink rather dramatically. Paul has two great driving groups. Don't worry about Iran's nuclear weapons and legalized drugs. I think each of those ultimately shrinks his appeal.
All right, you want to respond to the former speaker?
Yeah, I guess he's worried because his appeal isn't quite as good as our appeal, because we're talking about freedom of choice, freedom across the board, individual liberty and economic liberty, and a foreign policy that makes sense. But when he says, I don't care about the Iranians, that's nonsense. I'm just trying to avoid another war. But to say I don't care about them getting nuclear weapons, that's complete nonsense. So, yeah, I think he's struggling, and he's probably pretty desperate. So he's saying those kind of things. But when he talks about the supporters, that gets a little annoying. I don't like him to attack my supporters. Matter of fact, there are a lot of them. I don't know why he'd want to go out and annoy a lot of supporters if he wants to be a Republican candidate. So he's attacking a lot of people by saying the Ron Paul supporters do this and do that. The one thing is they believe in freedom. I'm not so sure that Newt clearly understands what that's all about.
Is he right, though, when he says that a lot of your supporters support you because of legalizing drugs?
No, I don't. I think he's wrong on that. I think there are some, but legalizing freedom of choice. This is sort of like saying, if they support me because I believe in the First Amendment and legalizing freedom of choice in religion, that means that, and they know I wouldn't interfere. That means Ron Paul is legalizing atheism. He's supporting atheism. Because you legalize something, you don't endorse it. That's something that a lot of people have no understanding on. But as far as people saying they support me mainly because they want to legalize drugs, matter of fact, that is not exactly my position. I just want to get rid of the federal drug war. That is the disaster.
Will you campaign aggressively in Florida, or are you effectively going to bypass Florida and move on to some of the caucus states that are going to be taking place in February?
Well, at the moment, we're going to move on to the caucus states. We've been a little bit concerned. Of course, we get a lot of money in, but we spend it, and that's why we've been doing well in Iowa, and we expect to do well here tonight. So it's hard to commit to, a candidate. Our lead candidate, gets a lot of money from Goldman Sachs, and he's going to have a lot of money to run a campaign winner take all. We have to, use strategy and go into the caucus and go into the states where you get a proportionate share. Why not use common sense rather than going and spending a lot of money that might not bear fruit?